Hello, Paul here, and I'm excited to take you through the 2015 release of Photoshop CC for web designers, UI, UX designers as well. It's really powerful what you can do. Actually, I have my iPad right here. I've actually used Adobe Comp CC to create a layout that I've actually sent to Photoshop, which is right here in front of me. But the end result also is we can design in Photoshop with amazing new features, and we can test that content back on our mobile devices directly from Photoshop. So let's go ahead and get started. So here's the layout that I actually designed in Adobe Comp CC. I also have access to all of these assets. They're in my Creative Cloud Libraries panel, and I'm in this adventure guide. But where did these assets come from? Well, they actually came from Adobe Stock. And here's Adobe Stock. I can go ahead and search on hiking. Up to over 40 million images. You can see I've licensed some already. See how that says licensed? I can peruse all these various images. And really, what you can do at any point in time is you can download. So you could save it to any library that you want. So I can save this to Adventure Guide. Okay, it actually already is licensed, but that's where it's going to save it to. And you have the opportunity to save a preview as well. So once you've done that, that content is actually going to appear right in here. So that's where this content comes from. And at this point, I could just select any one of these images that I want and bring it in to my layout that I'm working on. So here it is. I'll move this down and I can start designing. Okay, so I could place this in place, and also as I scroll down, notice how you can actually search on icons and UI elements as well. So that's what I have down here. All right, so I can start to position that into place, and also I could place additional graphics like this hike sort of footprint, if you will. All right, so I can position that appropriately, do what I want with it. But the great thing is this library is available to me pretty much everywhere where I'd expect it. So if I'm working in Illustrator, here are those same assets. So I can come in here and I can drop in this same image if I want to. And now, anytime I make changes to that graphic, in fact, I can just double click on it, like, say, for instance, kind of wear out this heel a little more. It's kind of removing some of it. But any change I make to this file, it's actually going to update everywhere. So you can see where it's removed it there. And also, back in Illustrator, you can see how it's updated there as well. And for this image, I want to actually add some layer styles. So I can add this soft light to this image right here. And what I've done is I've added these various layer styles. So look, check this out. I have this gradient overlay. I actually have multiple gradient overlays. So I have this sort of gold cast, and then I have this blue cast. And this is just to show that you can actually have more than one effect to really get the look that you want. And so again, you have that option. That's what I'm doing. Gives you more flexibility, and you can see how this is turning out. It's actually easier to see that word. Now I am working on this home screen for this app, and really what I want to do next is I want to develop different pages or different screens for this experience. Now I can make multiple PSDs, or I can maybe make multiple layer groups, but check this out, because you now have the ability to create artboards in Photoshop CC. So just behind the Move tool, there's the Artboard tool. I can select it, and I could just draw a frame around that content. You can see that says Artboard 1, and not only that, right over here, it says Artboard 1 as well. So I can double click and I can change this to home, call this the home page. If we're unsure of the size, or if we want to change the size, we can jump in here and we can select, say, iPhone 6 Plus. So I'm selecting iPhone 6 Plus. And you can make an artboard from layers, but what I want to do at this point is I want to duplicate this artboard, and I can make, say, for instance, the bike page, whatever the case may be. I can move that one over, and now I have two different artboards. And now I can start to customize this second one. If I decide I don't want that image there and I want to remove those mountains, I can remove them as well. Even if I want to move this hike boot to this second screen, check this out. I can literally just drag it in there as part of that artboard, and then when I let it go, notice how it places it right in that exact same spot. So you have that flexibility when it comes to manipulating artboards. But to be honest with you, I actually want to set this up differently. I can take this Adventure Guide nav and I can drag it into my library, and I can make this my top nav. Now I can drag that out and position that accordingly. But I'd rather have this one source element that I can then double click and edit, and it will change it everywhere. So it makes your life much easier. Now I do need to add a little search icon here, and I can do that a number of ways. Again, I could use Adobe Stock, but I also wanted to introduce you to the glyphs panel. It's really just a matter of, searching or selecting the font you want to preview and add that specific glyph. You can see a number of them, the entire font in this case. I'm using Font Awesome because I know I actually want to use a search button from Font Awesome. I can just go ahead and add that particular icon like I'm doing right now, just change the color, and now I have that icon. And the alternates, by the way. So if you take a look, you have all of the alternates for a specific selection. You get the idea, just like you do in Illustrator. Now I'm going to get into something even more advanced, and it's almost like having another Photoshop inside of Photoshop that's specific for UI, web designers, UX designers. If you go into Preferences, down to Technology Previews, enable design space. So it's just a preview right now, and as I select it, I can see my artboards here. Now in terms of navigating around your file, really all you need to do is just double click to dig into various layer groups rather than working through your layers panel. So you can click even down here multiple times into the bottom nav hike and then into that hike image, which you can see there, and I can select it. And not only that, I can change its color. I can even escape out just by hitting the escape key. Now I just want to create some navigation. So I'm just going to use the rectangle tool and just draw out a couple items. Okay, so I can draw out some rectangles. You can see what I'm doing here. In fact, I'm going to change the color of a couple of them. And I can select each one of these. Now I have all the alignment features that I'd expect, but actually I like the ability to jump in and be able to swap those two. So from here, if I wanted the white one to be the first image, I can swap the position of those two. So you see how you have that sort of control when it comes to graphics, and I can even start to round the corners by adjusting the radius. It's all the controls that you'd expect, but it's really easy to navigate around and create new artboards for new screens. And really, when you're done, you can just go ahead and close Design Space, and you're back in Photoshop. In fact, you can see those graphics that I've created as well. So everything works out just fine. I'm going to switch over to this other layout because what I have here is I have multiple screens. So I basically have this design done. And what I want to do now is I actually want to be able to see this content on my actual mobile device. So in that case, I could use what's called Device Preview. Now on my phone is Adobe Preview, all right? It's an app, and not only that, not only do I have Adobe Preview on here, it's connected by USB for my iPhone, so you can see it listed here. But not only that, my iPad is actually connected using Wi-Fi, so you could use either one, and what do you get? You get the content that's actually in Photoshop on your device. In fact, just so you could see it a little clearer, this is my layout on my phone, happens to be this exact same layout that I'm working on. I can jump in here, and if I decide I want to possibly change the color of this button right down here to red, you could see that it then changes it directly on the device. And you have access to all the other artboards in your design. Okay, so the last thing I want to cover now is actually exporting out your assets. So I have all of these various images, and I can jump into any one of these, and if I want to export out any image, I can just do a right click and I can quickly export this as a PNG. Or what I can jump in and do is export this as, you guessed it, JPEG, PNG, GIF, and even SVG in this case, because that's what I'd want this to be. SVG, it's kind of hard to see. Well, easy enough. We can toggle that to be the dark transparency, and we can export this directly to our desktop. There's the bike SVG, exporting it out just like that. And not only that, you have the file export menu to export out content, but you still have the generate image assets. So make sure you're taking advantage of that as well. So those are just some of the features available to you in the 2015 release of Photoshop CC for UI, UX, and web designers. I encourage you to give it a try yourself.